Hey there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a Western astrologer and twin flame channel, and this is a video about the Cancer full moon that took place on January 3rd at 5:02 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, definitely check a time zone converter for your local time. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to the collective here. I'm so grateful we get to kick off a new year together. I almost wasn't going to post this lunar update since I know it's a little bit late getting it out to you. Ran into some literal technical difficulties producing this particular lunar update, which I have resolved temporarily. Um, but yeah, it has been whew, quite the weekend for me coming into this new year. So, with that said, for those of you who are listening, definitely consider this a nice recap to the Cancer full moon and a clarifier to some of the experiences you may have had. At the very end of this lunar update, we will also include first look. And of course, signs who were going to have felt this full moon most. This full moon's energy will be active through the 11th in a waning fashion of January. And then we'll start to pick up the energy of the Capricorn new moon from the 11th forward. So if you had some interesting experiences with this full moon, I clearly did. Feel free to let me know about those in the comments. And for those of you who listen to these introductions, thank you. We do have a few January readings left. If you'd like to book with me, you can. Link is below. I'm at kmoonastro.com. Even a 30-minute reading can really help you clarify some things for your year ahead. I've met with a few clients already who have wanted to talk through some key pieces to the year around finances, investment, selling property, hiring team, and others who have checked in about best times for love and change in the new year, relocation, applying for school, etc. I'd love to chat with you if you'd like to plan out something important for 2026. For those of you who listen to these introductions, once again, a very special thank you. I almost didn't like record something special for you guys, and I got really self-conscious after the last lunar update I shared because somebody said before they even listened to the entirety of the lunar update that all I ever do is talk about myself. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. You're clearly A, new, and B, um, not familiar with the format here. But it was interesting to me. So if you guys don't like having a question that allows us to interact a little bit more, those of you who are my regulars, let me know. Those of you who do like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. But I like to share a little. I got some feedback last year that I could share a little bit more, so I'm trying to honor that. And likewise, I'd also like to hear from you guys a little bit more to just tighten up our community, get a little bit closer to one another in times of such significant change and extraordinary growth for all of us collectively. So, the question for those of you who hang out long enough for these introductions is this: do you set New Year's resolutions? I can be a New Year's resolution type of person. But what was interesting about the move into 2026 was that as soon as Juno, and here she is over here, jumped into the sign of Sagittarius last year, and that was around October, I felt the gotta go, gotta build, gotta change, got to expedite bug in my energetic system. And it felt like 2026 started then. So for me, I've already been working on the intentions that I have for 2026 as we closed out the last quarter of 2025. But I'm really curious, do you set New Year's resolutions? When do you celebrate your New Year's? I know a lot of people in the astrological community, they don't celebrate until like April, May, when we get into the period of time of the astrological new year. So if that is the case for you, let me know. I would love to know. Do you celebrate? Do you do resolutions or intentions? Do you do something more Danielle Laporte, a la, the feelings? What feelings do you want to have this year? Let me know. I'd be really curious in the comments. And for those of you who listen, once again, thank you so much. And if you don't like this segment, I'll take it out. All right, let's dive in. I want to bring your attention to one of the frequencies that really stood out to me regarding this particular full moon is how much cardinal energy and planetary placements and cardinal signs we see. With so much planetary activity in cardinal signs and in mutable signs at this particular lunation, this speaks to me about change, and not just change, but also really trying to figure out movement and new beginnings. Now, I want to frame change and new beginnings neutrally. Beginnings are not always good, beginnings are not always bad. Something starts when we have a lot of placements and cardinal signs, even though this is a full moon, which portends some fashion or format of ending. So, we have a full moon in Cancer here. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Here is our full moon in Cancer. And there is an opposition here specifically to Venus, who is in conjunction with the Sun. What's interesting about this for me, this opposition to Venus conjunct the Sun, is that whenever I see Moon, which represents emotions and needs, and Venus, which represents attraction and bond or chemistry and connection, it lets me know that there is some sort of tension between our needs and our attractions, what we're drawn to, and the emotional connection. These things may not be in sync at this particular lunation. You may find that the emotional connection and what we're drawn to uh, are not met by the actual chemistry and camaraderie. Let me break this down a little bit more. You may have had the experience in family situations or love situations primarily where you're connected, but your needs aren't getting met. Friendships and working relationships could also be a secondary challenge here as well. With Venus in opposition to the moon, the gap between our expectations of people, like our children or siblings or parents or friends or significant others, and our feelings for them, that we love them, that we're deeply connected, that we're either attached or attracted, as can be the case with lovers, the tension or the gap between the two can feel really large at this full moon's energy, especially in the wake of the holidays. For those of you who have contentious relationships with either certain family members or loved ones, you maybe feel very clear we are connected, and also very clear, I'm emotionally unfulfilled, or my needs aren't getting met. And this is meant to be a bit of an eye opener or a wake up call for us. In cases in particular where we've seen a future with someone or know that they're going to be in our future, for the example, in the instance of like a parent and a child, like, yeah, we are in each other's lives for the most part for the long haul. That or a person is like structurally a part of your life, like spouses, or co-parents to your children. These people are structurally a part of your life. That anchoring can run against the emotional experience that you may be having with that person at this time. And that's a moon opposite Venus, when the moon is in Cancer and Venus is in Capricorn. A person may be structurally a part of our life, but we also may be running into the challenge of not being able to meet one another's needs. What's interesting about this is that we also see we have a whole party going on over here in Capricorn, which I'm going to break them all down in a minute, but Pholus is pretty darn close there to Venus as well. And we also see Mars here in Capricorn, and there's the sun, of course. That's what constitutes the full moon, moon opposite sun. When we see Mars and Pholus in opposition as well, these two exacerbate the issue I just laid out. And they can make us really vulnerable to our emotions in ways that compromise our actions, either overly emotional based actions, whether it's acting out and crossing a line or shutting down and withdrawing from interactions in totality. The trap in this is thinking that maybe we're standing up for ourselves or acting in our best interests, but in actuality, overly emotionally based actions or just emotionally checking out altogether can really be compromising to our connections at this time. Now, that's not to say, hide your feelings, repress your feelings, nothing like that. It is going to be important to face them, understand their messages, and then check what's going on beneath these feelings. What are they signaling to me? Because there will be a lot of revelation and truth in our emotional states. But the best use of this will be with internal processing so we can figure out our next steps. Even processing with a therapist or a coach rather than getting dominated or ruled by our feelings and acting on them, either acting out or shutting down, it's really a good idea to take this time to reflect. Now, listen, I get it. I was late getting this lunar update up for many different reasons, one of them being very technical. I'm sure you can probably see on your screen. Bit of a change to our standard setup here for those of you who are very detail oriented. But that being said, um, it's going to really serve, even if you have taken some sort of action that compromised connections, you can use the wake of this full moon's energy to make amends with a clearer head or finalize and clarify those actions with greater love and clearer communication. Now, if the action was not something that happened with another person, but instead, maybe a sense of self-sabotage, something you did on your own, you can use the wake of this full moon's energy as the moon goes from Cancer to Leo, Leo to Virgo, Virgo to Libra, towards our next new moon, Libra to Scorpio, etc. You can use the energy going up through the 11th, which is where we start to feel the energy of the new moon. Use this energy to clarify things, to clean things up where actions may have compromised other areas of your life. If the impact happened to be in your finances or transportation or housing, etc., you can use this time to facilitate course correction. Now, if you were the recipient of actions of this nature, let what showed itself clarify for you what's your best next step when it comes to certain connections. It is likely time for some level of structural change to that connection so that it can evolve into its next iteration, if it has one. For some of you, this may be the signal you needed that it is indeed time to create some closure, completion, and endings with certain people in your life as you round out 2025 and step into 2026. We also see a square to this full moon from Make Make, and I'm trying to be very careful. I know sometimes going from lunar update to lunar update, I can switch saying new and full moon incorrectly. Even though this is a full moon, it has so much new beginning energy to it. So we do see Make Make square this particular full moon at this time. Now, this reveals patterns that have allowed us to learn things in relationship, but we may have a hard time integrating and digesting those patterns given the aspect of tension here. With the square, there's a need to acknowledge the things that we've learned in connections in a way that allows us to move forward. When Make Make in Libra is in the picture, this is about relationships and lessons. However, the challenge here is going to be timing. There may be other things that demand our attention, like I was just mentioning, honoring and facing really big emotions and feelings, and the psychic revelations of this new moon, which I'm going to talk about in a moment for those of you who consider yourself empaths or readers or energetically sensitive. This full moon would have been a big one for you, definitely was for me. Nevertheless, the tight square here indicates that there is a lesson on the table in all of the experiences you're having with this full moon. And it may be a challenge given the square to integrate that lesson at this time. So when I see aspects like this, it's easy to default to shallow and trite lessons out of self-protection. And I want to make sure I highlight this um, because the aspect of tension can create such a level of emotional overwhelm that we resort to things like all or nothing thinking, catastrophizing, generalizing, comparing. Again, these cognitive distortions can run really high and become a problem here and make matters even worse in interpersonal dynamics. There is a link to 15 common cognitive distortions in the description box that I left for you. So if you've run into any interpersonal challenges over the course of this full moon, you may find that there is a little bit of support that you can take by just taking a bit of time, doing some reflection, checking to see, am I seeing things clearly, or am I in a place of such deep emotional triggering that I'm having the experience of a cognitive distortion here? Okay. The article is a really good one. Check it out if you're finding yourself in interpersonal challenges, and then it'll support you to make certain adjustments in your connections as needed. Again, I apologize if something has happened and you're like, "Kay, why didn't you tell me this sooner?" Listen, I would have if I could have, but I didn't. So we're all going to be working this out together on the backside of this full moon. Like I said, there is time. And I am trusting that what unfolded in your life unfolded in the way that it needed to for you to be at the maximum and optimum of your growth edge. We also see a trine to Nessus in Pisces here. So I'm going to highlight that one. This makes all of what I just said even more intense. Now, there may be some emotions or feelings that you just can't escape from at this full moon, like your normal nervous system regulation techniques, your normal uh, ways of self soothing or discharging intensity, they just may not be available or working very well at this time. And if that's the case, um, like where you're feeling kind of haunted by a persistent emotion that you can't let go of or release, it's because there's something behind that emotion that's demanding to be acknowledged at this moment in time. There's something, either a spiritual truth or a reality of the structure of the situation that this full moon is trying to illuminate so that you can make some different choices. Okay. And a lot of this is really only amplified by the position here of Jupiter. It is very loose, but we do consider this a conjunction to the full moon for those who are sensitive. Most astrologers would not count this at all, but I have noticed that my audience is particularly astrologically sensitive. And when I've read for you all privately, I have seen loose conjunctions can still play an extraordinarily large part in your day-to-day experiences with people in your life. So Jupiter plays the role in the zodiac of amplification. It heightens things. It makes things bigger. It expands things. So Jupiter is going to heighten and amplify whatever he touches. And in Cancer, the sign governing our emotions, sitting with the moon, the planet that deals with our emotions, what we have here is amplification of feelings. And with Jupiter's retrograde, this amplification is imbalanced. So either for some, this is like deep emotional reflection, potentially on the past and its unfolding and the way things have gone, and really just reprocessing emotionally things that you've already lived through. Now, if that's been the case and you've been really emotional, know that you're not alone. There are many who are going through the same thing. But the other extreme is also possible here because extremes happen on a spectrum. They're not balanced, they're at one pole or the other. And the other extreme is deep repression, checking out, spiritual bypassing, this sort of thing. So it's easy for both of these to happen at this kind of full moon. And both of these can be exacerbated by the obsession energy that is Nessus here as well, in Pisces, playing a role in this particular full moon. So it's less likely obsession on checking out at this time, but that's still possible, especially if you have a well-worn pathway for checking out, like avoidance through gaming, physical intimacy, having substances, or working. But what's more likely given these placements is the emotional amplification and the inescapability of feelings that are really hard to ignore. For those who are normally really good at rationalizing their way through their emotions, this full moon would make it harder to do that. For those that normally drown in emotion, um, take lots of baths. Definitely do your nervous system regulation, book extra time with your therapist, breath work, be very gentle with yourself because this is only going to heighten that to some degree. Okay. And know that the more action you take to rebalance things, the better off things can be. Now, I will say, because of Mars in opposition to this new moon, some of the actions that you may feel guided to take don't always have the intended result that you would like. And so, again, if you've taken any action at this time, don't worry as the moon moves out of Cancer, the emotional water sign, and then moves into Leo, our sign of sovereignty, and then into Virgo, our sign of planning and strategy, and then to Libra, our sign of scale balancing, and then Scorpio, our sign of closures. We will get the opportunity to work through anything that has come up between now and the next new moon in Capricorn. Okay. Now, those who are deeply spiritual, you may get a lot of downloads and spiritual insights over the course of this full moon's total window of impact, which would have started a week prior and go up to a week after, like I said, through the 11th of January. Those who are deeply spiritual, like I said, you may find that these insights help you move forward emotionally, especially if your perspective on a specific experience that you've had has left you feeling sad or aggrieved or bad about yourself. bad about another person, shame, blame, guilt, anger, these sorts of things. This particular full moon, you may get some downloads about where the other person has been, was, or presently is that allows you to come out of those emotions because you're just able to see things from a different perspective, from a different vantage point. You may get some revelation. I don't know. I don't think it's coming from them. For those of you who are empaths and really psychically connected to the people in your life, awarenesses can start to come through now that help you recognize things you may not have seen before. There's a thinning of the emotional veil here that allows you to see some spiritual truths that were otherwise inaccessible. Okay. And they can help you align your life to your highest path or have really important conversations. Now, for those of you who really identify with the experience of being empathic, and listen, we all have the gift, but I know some of you feel this and have contended with the experience of having hyper empathy. This is where you may feel the emotions of another person really intensely with this full moon. You may get revelation regarding someone else's feelings about any and everything coming through at this full moon, especially when it comes to love, likes, preferences, dislikes, needs. You may find that you are suddenly very sensitive to and privy to information about the people in your world, even if you do have really good spiritual hygiene and spiritual boundaries. Now, those with the gift specifically of retrocognition, you may find that you're getting revelation about things that have happened in the past and what may have been happening behind the scenes for yourself or individuals you are connected to. This is a key time of digestion and integration about where we are in our lives, where we are in our relationships, why we are where we are, and what matters to us going forward. So, there are a few signs that are going to feel this particular full moon most, even in its wake. And these are our cardinal signs. So, Cancer and Capricorn, Aries and Libra, as well as the water signs. So, we'll add to Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. All right. Now, let's take a look at the new moon in Capricorn so that you know what's coming up next. This energy that with this full moon in Cancer will continue to remain active, like I said, for about one more week. And then the new moon energy starts to take its place in our lives. Okay, and here is our Capricorn new moon taking place on January 18th at 2:51 p.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Let's get into it. Here's our new moon at the 28th degree of Capricorn. And my first impressions as I take a look around the wheel here, this is an interesting one. It's intense. There's more intensity here. And the intensity, anytime I see Pluto and Venus in communication, and they were also in communication, um, sort of loosely in a very minor astrological aspect at the full moon in Cancer, anytime I see Pluto and Venus in communication or Pluto and Juno in communication, which they are, these are more challenging energies for love, relationship, and interpersonal connection. It doesn't just have to be romantic. So I want to put that caveat out here first because my eyes were drawn there. That intense interpersonal connections can really show themselves. And because Mars is also involved, I don't often say this, but I know some of you have come to me as clients and you have people in your world that don't have great boundaries. Um, Yeah, now I'm seeing the position of Saturn and Neptune as well. For those of you, let me just be really plain. Let me not skirt the issue here. Those of you who know you have stalkers, take extra precaution with the Capricorn new moon, okay? That's a very small minority of you. For the rest of the crew here, the majority of us, right? What I'm seeing here is tensions running really high. Some of it's going to be around money, some of it's going to be around power dynamics between people and trying to accomplish your aims and running into power struggles. Communication can be a bit of a challenge with this particular new moon in Capricorn because we can all, under this energy, come across forceful. And forcefulness isn't necessarily something that's going to serve you. Instead, what will serve is being strategic. This is a period of time with this new moon that has features Vesta, Pluto, Venus, Sun and Moon, of course, Mercury and Mars, all in conjunction. One of the best things you can do is be intentional and be strategic, especially with Saturn also speaking to this configuration, Neptune speaking to this configuration, Chiron and Eris speaking to this configuration. Oh gosh, Uranus is in the mix. I mean, no one's really left out. This is kind of the like we have a really big football game here called the Super Bowl. This is like the Super Bowl of like planetary energies that I'm looking at here. It's like the final match. It's final boss energy when it comes to contending with intense, transformative, astrological change. There is a lot of energy here stirring the pot for taking action and doing a new thing. And that particular energy is going to foster for you an energy inside of you to make change in your life. The critical thing that I can say as I'm looking at this is it's going to be important to know that you can change you, but you can't always change other people. To foster action where you can take action, but to not force anyone who's not trying to take action with you to run with the wolves who want to run with you. That's the best way I can put this. It looks intense. We're going to go through it and grow through it together. Um, and it's catalytic for sure. It is an energy of big, big, big change. So, if you felt like you've been guided to make changes coming into this new moon, or coming from the full moon in Cancer as we started the year, giddy up. It's time because the energy doesn't get less intense, it gets more intense coming into late January. Okay. And it's for our benefit. It is to help us get our lives on our next highest timeline. It's just a matter of, facing what needs to face in order to get that done. Listen, I'm here if you need some support. I've got some time literally right around the 18th in my calendar and thereafter. If you'd like to book a reading, you can find me over at kmoonastro.com. The link is in the description box. I can't wait to connect with you and support you in your journey. Take great care and bye for now.